The F-35 was built to be a ghost. A fighter jet with a radar cross-section so small, it is often compared to something the size of a golf ball. But on the other side, the Sukhoi Su-57 follows a completely different philosophy. Speed, agility, and the ability to perform extreme maneuvers that can make even a missile struggle to keep up. So when American, yet technology meets Russian combat philosophy, who truly owns the sky? Over the next 30 minutes, we will peel back the layers behind these two extraordinary machines. Why is the radar cross-section of the Su-57 believed to be thousands of times larger than that of the F-35? And yet, why do Russian engineers remain confident in their design? You will see how the F-35 reshapes on the very idea of network-centric warfare, a battlefield where information, sensors, and aircraft all fight as one connected system. And you will discover why the Su-57 is still considered a bold gamble in Russia's pursuit of technological independence. So if you enjoy deep dives into aviation and military technology, make sure to subscribe. And join us as we step into the world of some of the most sophisticated combat machines ever created by human hands. To understand why these two aircraft look so different, we need to start with the reason they were created. One design puts its faith in data, networks, and the ability to control information across the battlefield. The other places its trust in speed, maneuverability, and the raw power of the weapon platform itself. The Lockheed Martin F-35, the Lightning II, and the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon represent two very different paths to achieving control of the skies. The F-35 Lightning II was built to coordinate the entire fight. In many ways, it functions like a flying data hub. Former Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General David Goldfein, once remarked that the F-35 is not really a fighter in the traditional, onto sense. It is closer to a computer that happens to fly. The aircraft's real power lies in what engineers call sensor fusion. The jet constantly gathers data from satellites, ground-based radars, naval ships, and friendly aircraft. All of that information is processed and merged into a single, unified picture of the battlefield. And the pilot does not need to piece together fragments of information on their own. Instead, the system filters and presents everything directly inside the helmet display. Billy Flynn, one of the test pilots involved in the F-35 program, once described the aircraft as a data collection platform powered by more than 8 million lines of software code. This extraordinary level of situational awareness allows the F-35 to detect threats earlier, fire first, and leave the area before the enemy even realizes it was there. That is why, when the United States sells the F-35 to its allies, it is not just selling a fighter jet. What comes with it is an entire combat ecosystem. Battlefield data, maintenance networks, continuous software updates. The true strength of the F-35 lies in how seamlessly it becomes part of that larger system. The Sukhoi Su-57 Felon was built around a very different philosophy. Its design focuses on the ability to fight in environments where supporting systems might be disrupted or destroyed. In this approach, Russia emphasizes what analysts call kinematic, their superiority. That means speed, acceleration, and above all, maneuverability. Two powerful engines combined with a three-dimensional thrust vectoring system allow the Su-57 to perform extremely aggressive flight maneuvers. In certain situations, the aircraft can almost pivot in place before accelerating away again. Sergei Bogdan, a test pilot for the Su-57 program, has argued that the jet's supermaneuverability, combined with its Himalayas electronic warfare system, could provide a major advantage in close-range air combat. Instead of chasing the lowest possible level of stealth like the F-35, the Su-57 accepts a larger radar signature. In return, it gains higher speed, stronger maneuverability, and a larger weapons payload. One of its most notable weapons is the R-37M long-range air-to-air missile, which is reported to have a maximum range of roughly 400 kilometers. In the Russian approach, the weapon platform itself must be strong enough to operate independently, without relying entirely on an external network. For that reason, the Su-57 is designed with a higher degree of autonomy when it comes to integrating weapons and electronic systems. When the F-35 and the Su-57 are placed side by side, what becomes most visible is the trade-off. The F-35 gives up some speed and raw agility. In return, it gains exceptional stealth, immense data processing power, and artificial intelligence-assisted systems that help the pilot make decisions. The Su-57 takes the opposite path. It does not chase extreme stealth. Instead, its design focuses on engine power, maneuverability, and the combat capability of a self-reliant, weapons platform. Analysts at Defense Security Asia once summarized the difference this way. The F-35 is the symbol of coalition warfare, a model where every sensor, every platform, and every combat unit is connected through a vast information network. The Su-57 represents another philosophy entirely. Air superiority built on the strength of the platform itself, the ability to fight even when the larger system behind it is gone. From that perspective, the comparison is no longer simply about which aircraft is stronger. It raises a deeper question. Do you become a perfect node inside a massive warfighting network? Or do you become a warrior capable of standing alone, even when everything around you begins to fall apart? In the era of modern air combat, stealth does not mean complete invisibility. No aircraft is truly invisible. The real purpose of stealth is far more practical: to shrink the distance at which the enemy can detect you. And in that game, the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II holds a significant advantage. Most public estimates suggest that the radar cross-section of the F-35 is somewhere between 0.001 and 0.005 square meters. On a radar screen, the return signal is often compared to something about the size of a golf ball or a small metal marble. The Sukhoi Su-57 Felon, however, appears to operate on a different scale. Based on engineering patents filed by Sukhoi, the aircraft's average radar cross-section is estimated to fall somewhere between 0.1 and 1 square meter. The gap between those numbers is substantial. Aviation analyst Abhirup Sengupta once highlighted an interesting point about radar physics. When radar cross-section increases by roughly 1,000 times, the detection distance can increase by more than 5 times. In simple terms, this means that in many theoretical scenarios, an F-35 could detect a Su-57 much earlier than the Su-57 could detect the F-35. According to Sengupta, that early detection advantage could play a decisive role in the opening phase of an aerial engagement. However, Russian engineers did not ignore the stealth challenge entirely. The Su-57's design focuses heavily on forward aspect stealth, the direction where enemy radar is most likely to illuminate the aircraft. In addition, the Su-57 carries something unusual: L-band radar arrays integrated into the leading edges of its wings. These radars operate on longer wavelengths than the X-band radars typically used on fighter aircraft. Longer wavelengths can sometimes detect stealth aircraft more effectively under certain conditions. It represents a different strategy. Instead of focusing only on reducing its radar signature, the Su-57's also attempts to expand its own ability to see. But L-band radar has its own limitations. Its resolution is not precise enough to provide accurate targeting data for long-range missile guidance. In other words, it may reveal that something is out there, but it cannot always provide the precise targeting information required to complete the kill chain, from detection to missile launch. So the stealth and competition between these two aircraft is not just about shape or radar-absorbing materials. It reflects two very different philosophies about how control of the sky should be achieved. If stealth is where the F-35 Lightning II shines, the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon begins to show its strengths when the conversation turns to payload and weapon range. The Su-57 was designed as a powerful weapons platform. It carries two large internal weapon bays in the fuselage, along with smaller bays near the wing roots. Its maximum weapons payload is often reported to reach between 7.4 and 10 tons. One of its most notable weapons is the R-37M long-range air-to-air missile. This missile was designed specifically to destroy high-value targets such as airborne early warning aircraft or aerial refueling tankers from extremely long distances. Its reported range can reach around 400 kilometers. The Su-57 is also believed to have the ability to integrate the Ki-47 M2 Kinjal hypersonic missile, a weapon reported to reach speeds of up to Mach 10. That capability could allow the aircraft to function as a multi-role strike platform, not just a fighter. On the other side, the F-35 Lightning II typically carries fewer missiles when operating in its stealth configuration. Its internal weapons bays normally hold around 4 air-to-air missiles. But the aircraft's real strength lies in its sensors and software architecture. It is also currently the only fifth-generation fighter certified to carry the B-61 tactical nuclear bomb in an operational configuration. And some military analysts have pointed out this contrast before. Former Pentagon analyst Karen Kwiatkowski once made a controversial observation. According to her assessment, the Su-57 appears to have several advantages when looking purely at performance statistics. The aircraft is larger, faster, and capable of carrying a wider variety of weapons. But raw numbers not always tell the entire story. A missile is only dangerous if your system can detect and lock onto the target early enough. The F-35 is equipped with the AN/AAQ-37 Distributed Aperture System, often called the Distributed Aperture System, or DAS. This system gives the pilot a 360-degree view around the aircraft, including the space behind it, or skits. Because of this, the jet can launch weapons like the AIM-9X Sidewinder missile at targets located in angles that traditional fighters would struggle to engage. So this comparison ultimately becomes a clash of two philosophies. One side pursues maximum range and maximum firepower. The other relies on sensors and algorithms to deliver more precise shots. Put simply, the Su-57 is like a long sword, built to strike from far away with overwhelming force. The F-35 is more like a sniper, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment, and firing with almost surgical precision. In the end, the outcome of such a confrontation may depend on one simple factor. Does the fight begin at 300 kilometers or at 30 kilometers? By this point, the dry specification charts no longer tell the full story. What truly matters is how these machines would behave in an actual air battle. Imagine a hypothetical scenario in a contested stretch of airspace. On one side is the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, a fighter designed to control the battlefield through information and data. On the other side is the Sukhoi, or Su-57 Phelan, a combat platform built around speed, kinetic performance, and extreme maneuverability. What happens next reflects the way the modern kill chain works in air combat. Detection, tracking, engagement. Every second matters. Scenario 1, the hunt beyond visual range engagement. The two, those aircraft are closing in on each other from roughly 200 kilometers apart. At this stage, the decisive question is simple. Who sees whom first? The F-35 Lightning II uses its extremely small radar signature to minimize the chance of being detected. At the same time, its sensor systems are constantly gathering and merging information from multiple sources. That data might come from satellites, airborne warning aircraft, or ground-based radar stations. The result is a clear tactical picture for the pilot. From far beyond visual distance, the F-35 already knows where the Su-57 Phelan is. A missile leaves the internal weapons bay. An AIM-120 Delta Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile. Better known as the AMRAAM, accelerates forward at supersonic speed. Immediately after launch, the F-35 changes direction. The goal is simple: maintain stealth and avoid revealing its position. But the Su-57 Phelan is far from a passive target. The Russian fighter activates its N-036 Bielka multi-band radar system. In addition to, on the main radar located in the nose, the aircraft can also use L-band radar arrays embedded in its wings. These sensors do not provide extremely detailed images, but they can sometimes detect the presence of stealth aircraft at certain distances. Once the threat becomes clear, the Su-57 responds. AR-37. Long-range air-to-air missile launches from its internal bay. The missile accelerates to roughly Mach 6 and is capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers. At this moment, the battle becomes a contest of decisions and timing. Who detected the other aircraft first? Who achieved a stable target lock? And who forces the opponent to maneuver first? A former Ukrainian fighter pilot known by the call sign Andriy Juice, Dipilshchikov once described modern air combat in very blunt terms. If you do not know a missile is already flying toward you, the fight is already over. At this stage of the encounter, the F-35 Lightning II holds the advantage if it can keep its distance and remain hidden. But the Su-57 Phelan gains the upper hand the moment it forces the F-35 into aggressive defensive maneuvers. Because in that, on instant, the ghost in the sky might finally reveal where it is. Scenario 2, the knife fight in the sky. Within visual range engagement. Now imagine that both aircraft survive the exchange of long-range missiles. The distance between them begins to collapse rapidly. Within moments, the two jets streak past each other and enter the moment pilots call the merge. This is the instant when both aircraft finally see each other with the naked eye. At this stage, the fight becomes very different. This is where the Sukhoi Su-57 Phelan begins to show what it was built to do. With two powerful engines and three-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles, the aircraft can perform maneuvers that seem almost to defy aerodynamics. It can slow down suddenly, It can change direction almost instantly. And in some cases, thus it can pivot sharply in mid-air with an astonishing angle of rotation. Legendary test pilot Sergei Bogdan once argued that this extreme maneuverability is exactly what allows the Su-57 to gain a favorable firing position in a traditional dogfight. But modern close-range combat is no longer the same as the dogfights of the 20th century. Inside the cockpit of the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, the pilot does not always need to point the nose of the aircraft directly at the target. The jet's 360-degree sensor system allows the pilot to see through the aircraft using a data-integrated helmet display. All the pilot has to do is look toward the opponent. The system locks the target. An AIM-9X Sidewinder air-to-air missile can launch and immediately turn toward the enemy aircraft, even if the Su-57 Felon is flying behind the F-35. But this creates a fascinating confrontation. On one side is raw aerodynamic agility, where every movement of the aircraft can decide the outcome. On the other side is the speed of information, where sensors, software, and algorithms help the pilot react almost instantly. Air combat analyst Mike Spick once pointed out a sobering reality. In many modern air battles, the aircraft that gets shot down never even sees the attacker. Because of that, even at close range, the electronics and sensor systems of the F-35 Lightning II can partially compensate for its lower level of pure maneuverability. Now imagine a different scenario. A Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II is conducting a penetration mission into heavily defended airspace. Below it lies a layered air defense network built around the S-400 Triumph surface-to-air missile system. Within the same region, Sukhoi Su-57 Felon fighters are also on patrol. In this situation, the F-35 is not fighting alone. It operates more like a coordinator in the sky. Data from satellites, naval vessels, ground-based radar stations, and unmanned aircraft flows continuously into the cockpit. All of that information is fused into a single tactical picture. One of the unmanned systems that could potentially work alongside it is the Boeing MQ-28 Ghost Bat unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Meanwhile, the Su-57 Felon plays a very different role. It becomes a hunter within the defensive ecosystem. The Russian aircraft can receive targeting information from long-range early warning radars such as the Nebo-M radar system. Instead of activating its own radar, which might reveal its position, the Su-57 can approach the target using a passive infrared search and track system. That allows it to track enemy aircraft without emitting any electronic signal at all. But modern warfare increasingly depends on something else. Connectivity. The ability to share information instantly across an entire battlefield network. And in that domain, the F-35 Lightning II still holds a clear advantage. Spectacular aerial maneuvers at air shows like the Aero India or the Dubai Air Show can leave audiences amazed. The sharp turns, the sudden climbs, the gravity-defying rolls. But real war is rarely decided by beautiful aerobatics. In reality, two much simpler factors decide most wars: numbers and reliability. And in this, our area, the gap between the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II and the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon is almost a canyon. By the end of 2023, Lockheed Martin had delivered the 1,000th F-35. From today, close to 1,000 of these aircraft are operating in the air forces of more than 17 countries. That number creates something incredibly powerful: a global logistics network. Spare parts, training systems, maintenance infrastructure, and software support spread across the world. In many ways, it is an ecosystem that currently has no direct rival. More importantly, the F-35 is no longer just a concept on paper. The Israeli Air Force has been using its customized variant, the F-35 Idaho Adir, in real combat missions since 2018. Some of those missions reportedly targeted sensitive military infrastructure connected to Iran. In several cases, the IDF aircraft appeared on enemy radar screens only briefly, and then disappeared again. Quiet. Precise. Extremely difficult to detect. But cutting-edge technology always comes at a price. The F-35 has faced criticism for years because its mission-ready availability rate did not always meet expectations. Operating costs are also extremely high, roughly $44,000 per flight hour. That is the cost of maintaining one of the most complex weapons systems ever built. While the F-35 has been spreading across the globe, the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon has followed a very different path. A slower one. By around 2025, the number of operational Su-57 aircraft is widely estimated to be somewhere between 25 and 40, and a noticeable portion of those are still test or early production models. Russia has deployed the Su-57 to Syria for battlefield testing. Later, the aircraft also appeared in limited operations connected to the conflict in Ukraine. However, many Western analysts believe that Russia has been extremely cautious about exposing the Su-57 to high-risk or combat zones, because losing even a single aircraft could be a serious shock, economically and symbolically. Another factor cannot be ignored. Western technology sanctions have disrupted Russia's access to certain advanced electronic components. Those supply chain limitations have slowed the production of the Su-57 far more than originally planned. So the question remains: who truly controls the skies? The answer is not simply about which aircraft is stronger. The real question is, whose rules does the battle follow? If you choose the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, you are essentially choosing the iPhone of the sky. A machine that is refined, intelligent, and deeply integrated into the ecosystem of NATO, or so. But like the Apple iPhone, it also comes with certain limitations. The core technology remains in the hands of the United States. Countries operating the F-35 depend heavily on American logistics systems, software updates, and technical support. In return, they gain access to one of the most powerful network-centric combat platforms ever, unbuilt. The F-35 works best for nations that prioritize stealth, coalition warfare, and data-driven combat operations. Choosing the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon is more like choosing a customizable high-performance PC in the sky. It may not be as polished, but it is powerful, flexible, and potentially offers greater technological independence. Russia has shown more willingness to provide partners with deeper access, including technology transfer and even local production options. That makes the Su-57 attractive for countries seeking strategic autonomy, especially in scenarios focused on airspace defense and close-range aerial combat. In modern warfare, a fighter jet rarely fights alone. The Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II wins through the power of systems and global networks. The Sukhoi Su-57 Felon gains its chance when it can drag an opponent into a direct confrontation, where maneuverability and raw firepower decide everything. Because, in the end, the best aircraft is not always the strongest one. It is the aircraft that fits best with a nation's military doctrine and its desired level of strategic independence. Thank you for joining this deep exploration of two of the most remarkable combat machines of our time. If you enjoy thoughtful analysis like this, stay with the channel. Because the skies may soon welcome sixth-generation fighters, and with them, an entirely new chapter of aerial warfare is about to begin.